Who can tell me what we celebrated 40 days ago? What happened 40 days ago? It was a very important day. Say it real loud. Christmas. Christmas was 40 days ago. Now, I think most kids, they usually count the days leading up to Christmas. So I'm very impressed that you knew that. How did you know that today was exactly 40 days after Christmas? Or did anybody else know? You didn't know? Zoe, did you know? How did you know today was 40 days after Christmas? Good answer. So today is a special feast day of the church, the day in which we remember how the Virgin Mary, the Theotokos, she brought Christ when he was just 40 days old. And where did she bring him? Where did she bring him? To the temple. Very good. Or the church. She brought him to the temple, and there was an elderly man, a holy man named Simeon, and he had been waiting for the Messiah, waiting for Christ, waiting for the person who would give salvation to the world. And he knew and recognized that it was Jesus. And so he rejoiced. There's also at the time the prophetess Anna, and she too recognized that Jesus was the Lord. So 40 days after Christmas, 40 days after Jesus is born, he comes to the temple. He's brought to the temple. Does this sound familiar to any of you? How many of you have been in church when we may have done something similar? A churching, very good. And we actually have one today. I think you guys will be in Sunday school, but everybody else will get to see a churching. So 40 days after you were born, guess what happened? You were brought here. You were brought to the church. And so we, and this is just one of many examples where we follow the example of who? Whose example do we follow? Say it louder. Christ, yes. We follow the example of Christ. Now, after the baby's brought to the church at the churching after the 40 days, shortly after that, something else happens. What happens after that? Before that baby can be considered a member of the church, some things have to happen. Baptized, very good. Who else was baptized? Who else was baptized? Jesus. Very good. I hope you are starting to see there's a pattern emerging. Do you guys know what a pattern is? Who wants to tell me what a reoccurring? That's better definition than I could have given. I know a pattern when I see it, but I don't think I could have described it as well. So the pattern that we as Christians are to follow in our life is the life of Christ. And baptism is very special because in the baptism itself, there is a pattern that we follow, right? When we're baptized, where does the baby go? Hold the baby, and what do we do with the baby? We bury it in the water, and then what do we do? Do I leave the baby in the water? No, I don't. I bring the baby out. And how many times do we do that? 3 times. Very good. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. But also, that burial and that rising out of the water, what does that remind us of? Buried, rising. Nora? The resurrection. I'm not sure if that's what you said because you said it quietly, but I think that's what you said. Yeah. So we're buried and we're raised together with Christ. So in baptism itself, there's this pattern of death and resurrection. Now, the Orthodox Church gives us so many beautiful examples where we can, in a sense, have our life patterned after the life of Jesus. How many of you have fasted before? You fasted before? Or we try to fast? Every week there's a special fast. And for those of you who follow diet trends, this is not Meatless Monday. Right? Maybe you guys don't know that. But we as Orthodox have had 2 meatless days since the time of the apostles. And not only that, we've been practicing intermittent fasting before it even became cool. Or rather, we initially made it cool. So every week we have 2 days that we fast. What days are those? Wednesday and Friday. Very good. Why do we fast on Wednesday? Why do we fast on Wednesday? It has to do with Jesus again. Well, how about Judas betrayed Jesus on Wednesday? Very good. And what about Friday? What happened on Friday? I'll give you a hint. What did Jesus do on Friday? He was put on the cross. And so from the time of the apostles to today, we're supposed to fast on Wednesdays or Fridays. We adjust the pattern of our life so that it fits with Christ. Isn't that an amazing thing? And even more beautifully, the entire year gives to us the fasts and the feast days, and it helps our life to acquire a rhythm, not just a pattern after the life of Christ, but a pattern that's shared by the entire church. Isn't that an amazing thing? If you went to Russia during Lent and you went to a restaurant, do you think they'd try to give you some pork? No, you could get fasting food. Because this is a pattern that we all share and connects each and every one of us as Orthodox. And even more importantly, it even connects us to those who've gone before us. And so our whole life should be patterned on the life of who? Christ. It's the same answer pretty much every time, so you guys can just shout it out. Our life is to be patterned after the life of Christ. Now, there's 2 important things that I want you to do, that you need to remember to do, so that this pattern can take effect. The first is, can you pattern your life after the life of Christ if you don't know him or don't know about him? What do we have to do? How do we come to know Jesus? How do we get to know about Christ? Beautiful. We come to church, and there in church, we don't just learn about Jesus in Sunday school and in the gospel reading, but in the worship, we actually live the life of Christ. On Holy Friday, we see Christ nailed to the cross. On Pascha, we see the empty tomb. How else do we learn about the life of Christ? Read the Bible, right? We can read his words. The words that he spoke 2,000 years ago are every bit as important and profound and life-changing as they were 2,000 years ago. So, our prayer today is that each and every one of us can do the best job that we can to allow our lives to be patterned after the life of who? Oh, come on, guys. Christ, who is holy now and forever and to the ages of ages.